The Middle East has been one of the most volatile regions since World War II, marked by numerous conflicts, fueled by domestic disputes, regional rivalries, and the involvement of major world powers. And Israel has been a central player in the region, engaging in major wars with Arab neighbors, and facing ongoing threats from non-state actors like Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis, all backed by Iran. Iran has consistently supported militias opposed to Israel, forming the axis of resistance to challenge Western influence. Iran also backs other groups, like the Popular Mobilization Forces in Iraq, and various militias in Syria, all of which share the goal of eliminating Israel. Tensions between Israel and Iran have intensified, especially over Iran's nuclear ambitions, which Israel perceives as a direct threat to its national security. As a result, Israel has taken a proactive stance, engaging in covert operations to sabotage Iran's nuclear facilities, often involving cyber attacks, targeted assassinations of key nuclear scientists, and other covert activities aimed at delaying or disrupting Iran's progress. On the other hand, the long-standing hostility between the US and Iran, which dates back to the 1979 Iranian Revolution, has led to Iran's militia network frequently targeting US forces, complicating America's strategic role in the Middle East. The 2023 Gaza war only made things worse, dragging the US even deeper into regional conflicts, and pulling focus away from other global issues, like China's growing influence in the Indo-Pacific, and the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine. In recent years, the US has really complicated the global situation by getting involved in all sorts of conflicts, and now it's extending into the Middle East. This could create a no-man's land if things spiral into a full-scale war. If that happens, the prolonged conflict will lead to serious issues, such as environmental damage, massive humanitarian crises, and areas becoming uninhabitable. The stakes are incredibly high. The US still has some influence in the Middle East, but it's not as strong as it used to be, especially with Russia and China becoming more involved. Israel has long balanced its relationships with Russia and China to avoid global isolation, while facing American pressure to align more closely with the West. Despite these efforts, both Russia and China view Israel not as an independent player, but as an American proxy. Over the years, China has provided various forms of support to Iran, including diplomatic backing, financial aid, and weapons. So for China, Israel is the stick with which it hits the US in the Middle East, as it is a chance to poke the US in the eye and show American double standard regarding human rights. China portrays itself as promoting peace, while depicting the US as warmongering by supplying Israel with weapons, making matters worse. On the other hand, Russia is now stepping up its game by supplying Iran with advanced defense systems to help it defend itself if Israel strikes back. Russia is also helping Iran get the materials it needs to develop nuclear weapons, and expected to sign a big cooperation deal with Iran soon. This deal will include a promise for Russia to defend Iran if needed. It will be part of the BRICS group, which aims to challenge the influence of NATO, a group of Western countries, including the US and Europe. Russia has been trying to strengthen its influence in the Middle East, sometimes at the expense of US interests. Diplomacy in the region has been challenging, particularly after the unexpected Hamas attack in 2023, and Israel's strong military response, like launching a major attacks and assassinating key Hezbollah and Hamas leaders. In April, President Biden warned that the US might change its policy towards Israel if the country didn't push for a ceasefire, that including the release of hostages by Hamas and more aid for Palestinians. But at the same time, he promised that the US would continue to support Israel against any threats from Iran. But Israel seems willing to take significant risks, believing it can control the situation, and Iran is showing a more aggressive stance, and has told Arab countries it doesn't care if its actions lead to a full-scale war with Israel. The US has also asked European and other partners to urge Iran to avoid escalation, but Iran has not been cooperative. So with things heating up, there's growing concern that the situation could trigger all-out war in Middle East. While many Arab states have previously normalized relations with Israel or remained neutral, but widespread regional unrest could lead to shifts in alliances, with more countries potentially aligning with Iran against Israel. The US is working to rebuild a coalition with allies like the UK, France, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia to prepare for potential conflict, but growing anti-Israel sentiment in the region makes this difficult. As Russia builds power alongside Iran, China, and North Korea, Israel's global standing will likely decline. And with the US seen as weakening, Israel's position could suffer further. Therefore, Israel needs to be cautious in balancing its relationships with both the US and these other powerful countries. So the US has limited options in dealing with Iran, as relations have been severed since 1980. The US can only communicate with Iran through Switzerland or other intermediaries. Despite some past direct negotiations, the political climate in Tehran has become more hostile since President Ebrahim Raisi's election in 2021 and a tougher parliament in 2024. The 2015 nuclear deal, led by the US, was abandoned by President Trump in 2018, and since then, Iran has refused direct talks with the US. And if war breaks out in the Middle East, the consequences could be severe and far-reaching. Regional instability would escalate, leading to significant civilian casualties and a humanitarian crisis. Economically, global oil markets could be disrupted, affecting energy prices worldwide. The geopolitical landscape would shift, with countries like Russia, China, and Iran gaining influence, while US and Western allies would face strategic setbacks. The conflict might also strain international alliances, forcing nations to choose sides, and potentially leading to broader confrontations. Overall, the war could exacerbate global tensions and create long-term instability globally.